checking in, noticing, attending to what you need. This is also an opportunity to check in with yourself and notice if you need to shift your pose. If you're feeling sleepy, if you're feeling like this is a good time to take a nap, maybe just propping yourself up a little bit and seeing if you can be present for this practice. And then again, if you happen to fall asleep, perhaps you're just tired. So allowing for that to be. And just allowing the body to soften, to let go. Allowing the mind to settle in it into the breath, into this body, noticing what's here right now in this moment, honoring this time that you set aside to be here, honoring yourself. Perhaps also taking a moment to notice the overall energy in the body, noticing if there is agitation or calmness, without any judgment, just observing your experience in this moment. Just taking note of where the mind goes during the silence, during the pause. What is taking your attention away right now? And as you note this, just taking note of it and just coming right back to bringing your attention to this moment. Noticing this body breathing, this body sitting or lying here. Perhaps sensing through those areas of contact, the body being held by the surface, holding you. Noticing the areas of the body that feel at ease, that are gently just sitting here or lying here. Perhaps allowing your attention to rest just there. Really kindly meeting yourself where you are. With this loving awareness. And now just bringing your attention to how you're holding yourself in this moment. What is the overall tone of the moment? Is it rigid? Is it kind? Is it loving? Supportive? Without having to do anything about it, without any judgment, just noticing. I invite you to just take a deeper than normal breath, finding the breath again. And after the long exhale, just allowing the breath to flow normally. Noticing the quality of your breathing. And is it okay for you to just let the breath be exactly as it is? There's no need to change or control. Just allowing this body to breathe. And there's nothing you need to do. If you're here, you're already breathing. Perhaps noticing the rising of the body on the in breath, the falling on the out breath, the sensation of the breath coming and going. And from this place of stillness, allowing your inner wisdom to come forward without you looking for anything, any answers in particular. I invite you to bring to mind somebody that you admire. This could be a spiritual being or a person, historic figure, somebody that is perhaps not somebody you know, but that lives in your mind. Somebody that you admire. Allowing that inner wisdom to come forward without you looking for anything in particular. Then just noticing some qualities of this being that you admire. What are some things you admire about this person? Being really specific, letting your wisdom come through. What are some qualities? What do you admire about this person? It could be that this person is generous or patient, kind, whatever it might be for you. Just noticing some things in this person, in this being, that might also be true for you. Some qualities that might be true for yourself. What do you have in common? And allowing these answers to come from deep in your heart. And now holding on to some of these answers that might have come up for you. Just keeping them in mind. And now noticing if there's anything that is true for you now that was true before in the past. What is something that's always been true for you? Something that has been important that you have valued in the past that you still value now. Again, this can be some other qualities. Now noticing what are some of these common things that you share with family, friends. Community even. What are some of these things that you have in common? Now, what are some things that you disapprove of on others? Some things that perhaps you judge on others. Could be tardiness or impatience or anything that comes to you that is absolutely unique to this moment for you. What is the opposite of those things? Can you come up with the opposite of these things that you disapprove in others? And now just taking in a deeper than normal breath, long exhale. And then just looking at what came up for you during this short reflection. Seeing if there are three things that are the most vivid to you. 3 things that are the most meaningful, vivid to you. And seeing if you can name them as one word. It could be, as an example, discipline, vulnerability, bravery, whatever is true to you. See if you can come up with 3 words that are really important to you. And then seeing if you can just repeat these 3 words to yourself, noticing the power they have, the charge of each word. Noticing if there's an emotion behind these powerful words for you. Just allowing that to permeate your entire body as you allow these words to take root in your core. Then maybe making a vow, a commitment for these words to be something that brings intentionality to your life. A commitment to notice when you're not living up to them. Allowing these words to be that path that you're walking on. The meaning, the things you live for. And just knowing that these words that you've chosen today, that have come up to you today, for you today, might change, and that's okay. But that's what is true for you right now in this moment. And this is a commitment you're making right now in this moment. And as we come to the end of this practice, of this reflection, perhaps even tapping into your inner child imagination, imagining or pretending that you're setting these words in stone, writing them somewhere deep in your core, in your heart, to guide your path. And whenever you're ready, at your own pace, perhaps just allowing for some movement, noticing what the body needs. Allowing the eyes to open if it feels so right. And if it feels right for you in this moment, maybe perhaps even writing some of those words in the chat and sharing with the community if that feels okay. And if it doesn't, that's okay too, just keeping them in your heart for you. So just knowing that you can always write them down for you later. You can always keep them with you. So maybe as you stretch a little, move a little, yeah, honesty, love, family, yeah, it's commitments. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, yeah. Enthusiasm, curiosity, perseverance, yeah. Kindness, calmness, patience, honesty, responsibility, loyalty, loving, reliable, and helpful. Yeah. Kindness, generosity, and gratitude. Absolutely. Yeah. So some of us share very similar words in our community: integrity, connection, creativity, generosity. Yeah. Thank you. Beautiful. Yeah. Sharing. Yeah. Yeah. So just allowing for these words to be as meaningful as they can be for you. And so we're going to backtrack just a little bit into the core of the reflection: happy, peaceful, delight, honesty, wisdom, kindness. Yes. Yeah. Warmth and peace. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So, the purpose of that reflection, of coming up with something that is important to you, it's really tapping into the fundamentals of living with intention, intentionality. And when we talk about living with intentionality, we're pretty much talking about not being in autopilot. And so, as practitioners, we know very well what autopilot is. And when we see our entire life that just passes us by, and we didn't notice where we were, we didn't notice what we did all these years, or even the last few hours before this, or an autopilot, we're just doing mode. Also getting into the routine, having the routine and not even paying attention to what we're doing is part of autopilot sometimes. And routines are good. It's just a matter of having a conscious routine, that we're conscious when when we're actually experiencing life, when we're going even through our routine to daily life. So as an example of living in autopilot, something that I've been tapping into recently and I wanted to share with you, has been consumption. How much we consume in regular life, in every day. And I think, unfortunately, for many of us, it doesn't take much to not notice what we're consuming. And we can even, as an example, bring up food consumption, right? How often do we pause and reflect on what drives the decision of what we're eating or how much we're eating, how much we're buying, right? Sometimes, at least in my experience, sometimes I justify the trips to the market as food, and sometimes very unnecessarily, knowing that I have plenty of food at home, right? And so these things could be part of noticing when we're on autopilot, of living a life with intentionality, of noticing, what is my consumption? That's one of the things that, some of my words, to just notice consumption, to have more intentionality around that for me. So according to Thich Nhat Hanh, in his book, it's called Silence, the Power of Quiet in a World Full of Noise. He talks about how we eat not to satisfy hunger, but to escape silence. And based on that is that I wanted to bring this example of food to you, because I think many of our eating habits kind of are tied to our inner core, to how we feel. Boredom. I find, as I was saying, in my personal experience, I find like going to the market is a distraction sometimes. Oh, it's just bored, nothing to do. I'll just go to the market and see what's there. And so in other words, these things don't come from a place of awareness anymore, right? So autopilot, just kind of doing mode again. And so the noise, the noise might take us into a perpetual loop of mindless chase. So here I am in the market, for instance, and now I see, I without even noticing how I feel, what's happening within me. I see, let's say, a bar of chocolate, or for me, as I shared before, is carbs, pasta, bagels, stuff like that. And I notice when I buy these things, and I notice when I go to the market and purchase these things, most of the time it's really unaware. It's just kind of like, it's the thing I do, and so for me, living with intentionality is noticing these moments and my consumption with food, with the things I purchase, and again pausing to see what is happening. What do I need right now, right? Definitely eating all that pasta is not going to be beneficial for me or my health, or eating all those bagels. That's the thing that for me, intentionality is a consumption around food and purchases more than anything. So having that intention to actually pause before going, and now I was talking to my husband about Amazon and how easy and convenient it is to buy something, but sometimes without second thought. We just, I'll just look it up in Amazon. I'll just go and buy this. It's so quickly. So it's, we live in a society where reward is so fast, right? We get rewarded within minutes. I don't even have to leave my house, and I just order something and I'm gonna get it in hours. And so having that intentionality for me, is to notice, what's happening, taking that pause. Do I really need this? Do I really need this food? Do I really need this item? And it could, of course, go into many areas of our lives, right? And so having those words of really can really be powerful into noticing when I'm not living up to them. And so Thich Nhat Hanh says, you believe you don't have enough conditions to be happy right now. And so you develop the habit many people have of constantly running after one thing or another. And I believe that's at the core of living without intention, of autopilot, constantly chasing things. So for many, living intentionally starts with identifying our core values. And that's what that exercise was about. Identifying what's important to you. This is not about right or wrong, but what's important to you. Our values, that should be at the center of our being. They're the things that we hold most dear and cherish above everything else. And this might evolve, as I was saying, right? Like for me, I never really realized consumption was a big thing, but now my values are shifting into maybe simplicity, right? Into living a more simple life, having less, consuming less. So simplicity is a big word for me right now. And it has changed. And then there's still the other values that I live by as well. And so that's just to give you an example of how these things kind of change as we evolve, as we grow. So in mindfulness, of course, the tradition of mindfulness um, is a secular mindfulness has been extracted by the frameworks and the maps of precepts and vows from very old traditions, very ancient traditions. And so this inner reflection, this tapping into values is, in mindfulness, we have some precepts we live by. In this community, we have our guidelines. We have the foundational attitudes of mindfulness according to John Kabat-Zinn, based on MBSR, something that I live by and I share with you all. But then these are also values that are important to you. So these words that come up are things that are important to you. And as I speak, maybe other things might be coming up, as far as your words, what you chose, maybe a little more clarity, maybe not. But just really noticing that this can change, that what are some things that can bring intentionality to your life? What are some values? What are some core beliefs that you have? That's the idea of today, to notice that. And again, values are not right or wrong. They aren't something that you need to cultivate. There's something that is already in you. For instance, as I share in my experience, for me, this idea of simplicity, it's not really something that is out there or that I consider right or wrong. It's simply something that is being born in me through my practice through the years, something that I've been working on for a while. And so values are something that just comes from your inner wisdom, from your inner self, from your core, something that you consider really important. So for you being something really important is the environment, then consumption might be one thing. If it's really important, world peace, then something else might be. So really, it's a core thing of something that you hold deep inside you, something that is true for you. Um, and so, and in choosing these core values and really noticing what is important to you, the idea is that when we make this commitment to live a life with intention, an intentional life, and as mindfulness practitioners, we already have, by all the sharings, we already have a core practice. We have things that we live by already, but we can spread this. We can go even beyond what we consider mindfulness or kind, and go beyond into what is important to us, into what will be important to us, and what maybe, if it's important for you, the well-being of others, what will be important, what words will come up. And so finding really what's important to you is really the key in living a life that is intentional. Something that speaks to you is going to make it a lot easier for you to follow this path. But also with our practice, mindfulness, right? Mindfulness is the core of everything. So we can notice when we're not living up to our values. Mindfulness allows us to see when, as I was saying in my example, well, I just went on the market and bought all this bread, let's say, as an example. Well, at that moment, I wasn't living true to myself. That's not what I believe. That's not the life I want to have. And so without judgment, I just notice that. And then I make it into a commitment to remember next time. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to divert, right? The idea is to live intentionally. So to be conscious. Now, one day I might decide that, what, today I do want that. Today I want to have my pasta, my bread, or my chocolate, or whatever it is for me. And I'm going to do it, but I'm conscious of it. It's not autopilot. I'm pausing, I'm taking a moment to do that. And I notice that when I do that, it doesn't repeat. So when I do that, I'm able to see, okay, maybe I'm feeling a little like tired today and I'm going to do a chocolate pickup. I notice that when I'm conscious of it and I even make that decision to actually go and do that particular thing, it doesn't carry over. I don't go into a everyday thing, it doesn't follow, oh, the next day I do the same, and the next day, now I'm caught in this rhythm, creating a new mind habit of just, being in autopilot the entire time. But I'm actually making a conscious decision. So that's really important too. That it's not about being rigid and stern and this is the only way to be or to do things. It's more about being conscious. This is what our practice tells us. And again, no judgment, right? That we do this without judgment, that every time we catch ourselves, maybe not living up to our values, maybe not living a life with intention because we've been in autopilot, we've been really busy. Maybe at that time, every time we catch, that's a mindful moment, right? Maybe noticing if there is a judgment there and letting go of judgment. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to share with you today. I hope this is helpful for you. And this part, the reflection and some of this, the core values are inspired from the mindfulness and performance curriculum. So this is not my own. I just want to say that a lot of it comes from that, to really just notice. It's called MPEAK, and just to really notice what our values are into intentional living. So some of it comes from there, and some of it, of course, come from Thich Nhat Hanh and the books that he writes. So there's always room for inspiration everywhere for you to really. I just give you a little bit of what I'm learning and what I've learned, and hope that helps you. So thank you so much for your kind listening and your attention.